Welcome to the Tesla Power Podcast. This is where we're building the Tesla energy community. We're covering solar panels, solar roof, and Powerwall for your home. I'm Aaron Brady, and today let's talk about PTO and my overall customer experience and sentiment. Let's talk about solar customer expectations. I think that's something we really need to dig into. Let's talk about another interesting wind power option and more. Let's do it. And just like we always do, we're going to kick off the pod with community input. You can participate tons of ways. Comment below, link your YouTube videos. You can call 203-816-5150, or you can email teslapowerpodcast@gmail.com. And for the bold and ambitious, record an unlisted video question in the YouTube app. Send me a link. I'll put your question in the show. First up, we've got David. He confirms that there are no chips in solar tiles. Let's read it. Quote, in the solar shingle, there will only be the solar cells and a couple of diodes. And quote, I mean, it's also worth reminding ourselves that Tesla listed a bunch of banal parts that were also short. Supply chain extends to more than just chips. One of them could definitely be diodes, but certainly solar cells, right? We've seen it hit the regular solar business before the solar roof business anyway. So regardless, we see lots of supply chain interruptions. It's going to take a while to work through all of this. If anyone's well equipped to navigate, these kinds of waters, it's Tesla. Of course, it can't come soon enough, right? All right, next up, we've got Stephen Green. He's commiserating with me. He manages to slide in a humble brag. Let's read what he's got to say. Failure again. It's a bummer. I had my install within 4 weeks. I had a new meter and PTO. I'm with Eversource. I just might be lucky. Thanks again for your podcast. And quote, fast PTO. Eversource is your utility, so you have access to that sweet demand response program. Isn't your life awesome? I want to remind everyone, I'm the one that's culpable here, so I'm keeping a good, spirit about this. Don't forget that I had changed my order halfway through the install to add a Powerwall, which put all of my permits and drawings out of date. And I mean, this is truly the source of the issue. Would I have preferred that Tesla tell me no and made me stick to the one Powerwall? No, I'm grateful that Tesla was flexible with me and was able to add the additional battery. I needed it, frankly, I need more. So I and Tesla are paying the price for being flexible in an inflexible process. Anytime you work with the government, it tends to be quite inflexible. So Tesla's not innocent here, of course. I do have to be honest that I am the source of the issue, me, right? I'm going to own this, but now that we have the paperwork done correctly, we just need to get past this next detail, right? I mean, I hope there's not more. There could be, but let's at least keep moving the process forward so we can find out. What is awesome about having batteries, I can still use the system without exporting any of my electricity. It's not a huge lump of useless crap on my roof, right? Seriously, this is another huge reason why batteries simply need to be part of every installation. Just so many reasons. But thanks to David, thanks to Stephen, both of you for your input. Let's hear from the rest of you. Send your YouTube links, comment below, call 203-816-5150, or email teslapowerpodcast@gmail.com. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll do a little news. Now, this episode, I want to cover just one story. CNBC reports on Shanghai lockdowns that are getting a little crazy. Let's check out a clip.
And the reason this is so important from a global supply chain standpoint is that this area is home to a lot of facilities for American companies such as Eli Lilly, ExxonMobil, Nabisco, Mondelez. And then it's also known as a home base for plenty of Apple suppliers and tech companies that come from Taiwan more broadly. So Pegatron, for example, which is an iPhone assembler, said that it had to halt some of its production there. Also, Compal, which makes the iPad, said the same thing. Quanta, which is a MacBook maker, they halted their production in a different city, but in that general area. So you're starting to see a lot of this disruption because of just how close they are to Shanghai, and just people in different areas very concerned about people from Shanghai coming over to their areas and then potentially spreading the virus.
So it is remarkable how the macro picture has changed so dramatically since December, between rising interest rates, rising oil prices, rising raw materials cost, continued supply chain disruptions. I mean, we have a much less optimistic outlook for 2022, but let's hang in there. Things can still turn out pretty great, right? But that'll do it for the news. Let's take another quick break. When we come back, we'll get into the featured video. So Harmony turbines showed up in my feed at just the right time to catch my fancy. It's been brought to market essentially by one guy in a shed, Christopher Moore. This is his channel on YouTube. He built a small team now, but it's really, it's really turning out well. I think I really like the direction he's taking. So let's take a look at what he's doing.
Harmony's default state is fully open, like this. It starts spinning in winds of just 1 to 2 miles per hour and stays fully open during low and normal wind speeds. But when storms kick up and winds begin to climb past 25 to 30 miles per hour, Harmony begins to do something amazing. It starts automatically furling to protect itself from these dangerous winds. No other wind turbine can escape the wind like Harmony turbines can.
And that's pretty cool. Of course, the Achilles heel, which I covered on a previous podcast, is that it's got moving parts. And when you've got moving parts, there's not a lot you can do to overcome this kind of stuff. So it's tough. What I do want to say, though, is I really want them to succeed. I want, what they're doing, to be successful. And what I think Tesla might be able to bring to wind products like this is they would be able to over-engineer the products and create incredibly efficient appliances that would require very little maintenance. Think the million-mile motor in the Tesla cars, for example. But the more important part, straight up, that's going to take this where a guy in a garage with a small team just can't, that's scaling production. Even if Harmony is able to get the product off the ground, it's going to be expensive to manufacture and expensive to install. Tesla would be able to bring dizzying scale and drive costs down on products just like this. So, of course, we come back to the question, where's Tesla's effort more helpful? I mean, should they focus on the HVAC first? Should they, go right into residential wind? I'm of the opinion that at some point they're going to be big enough to be able to do all of these things at one time. I mean, they're essentially the 21st century General Electric, right? And they're going to get into a crazy number of products as their business matures. Right now, I totally accept that they need to get battery scaled. I absolutely see them getting to residential wind at some point, though. Now let's share some production numbers. I hadn't shared that in the last podcast, but if I get the screen sharing going here, we can see what we're doing. You'll notice that there's a couple of blank days. That's because I turned off the system right before the witness test. A little nervous, I'm not going to lie. But now that I'm sharing it here, I'll go ahead and pull up the Tesla app and make sure that I can share my screen, right? Yeah. So there we go. I've noticed that the Tesla app takes a little bit of time to come up for whatever reason last couple of days, and even now you can see that the animation's frozen, so I might have to kill it, which is a little bit disconcerting. I wonder if that had something to do with my witness test, actually, because the witness test, the UI inspector is using my app to time things out, and I don't know. I wasn't paying close enough attention, unfortunately. But if we go into energy here, we can see on solar production, today's been quite good. And yesterday, it was cut off the first quarter of the day before the inspection started, and then the day before that, I didn't do anything at all. But production numbers in general have been pretty respectable. I mean, even though the system was shut off for a lot of the day, we still got 40 kilowatt hours yesterday. It's pretty baller. We're up to 32 kilowatt hours today. So production's mixed, but it's not terrible. And then, of course, we want to go over and take a look at the brother-in-law system. We've got his app here. So if I just refresh the page, we can see how he's been doing the last few days. You know, in comparison to what I've been doing, you know, he's peaking out at like 70. You can see the scale here is 70. So yesterday, man, he just is crushing it as per usual, and he'll continue to crush it through the rest of the season. You know, as we get through summer, he's going to be creating a lot of electricity. So this month, he's up to almost 500 kilowatt hours. And let's check to see how we compare. I would expect we're pretty well below that, especially since I turned off the system for a little bit. So let's go into energy and just do it by month. And we can see total numbers. Yeah, only 300. I mean, 300 versus 500. We're producing a third less. Yeah. Anyway, just stuff to keep an eye on, and it's very interesting to see how they compare, as I always say. But you know, I was a little nervous, I'm not going to lie, about the whole you know, witness test process. It was pretty smooth, though. You know, I don't know. The utility didn't seem to have a problem, you know, not with the system being on anyway. But the best part of the witness test for me is getting to hang out and nerd out with the Tesla crew. And for this visit, it was a crew of one. You know, he was one of the electricians that covers the installs. He's there with the UI person and with me so that he can shepherd the test through. Now, we covered a lot of ground outside of the witness test, but something we kept coming back to in our conversation was how customer expectations are not matching the ability of solar to deliver. And one super interesting anecdote that he shared was a well-to-do customer that got the solar roof and was confused why they still had electricity bills. You know, their assertion was that the system simply had something wrong with it and that Tesla should come out, diagnose the issue, and sort it out, right? And when Tesla investigated, it was that the roof was producing less than they were consuming because of the time of year. You know, the customer's next question then is, okay, I'm about to write a check. You know, what do I need to add to my system to make sure I cover my usage? You know, just more batteries, right? All right, let's do more batteries. You know, what happens when I get my electric cars? You know, we'll just turn the system up to 11, right? And I mean, as a consumer, I had all these same questions. You know, it wasn't until I started the podcast that I started to understand what solar can do. You know, its seasonality, the importance of not just increasing production, but also reducing consumption. You know, the energy equation, it's super complex. You know, it's not as simple as other things might be. You know, the variables change nearly every second of the day. You know, it depends on your usage patterns. Maybe you turn on the microwave, or, you know, maybe your production varies because a cloud passes overhead. So utilities have tried to make this easier by offering net metering deals to incentivize adoption and just make the whole thing simpler. But net metering can't last forever. And Tesla's tried to make this easier with the inclusion of the Powerwall, but these are simply storage devices. You know, they can't help if you're not producing enough in the first place. So I don't know. I would also say that argument is a huge one against vehicle to grid, right? The more storage you have, you know, just because you have more storage, it doesn't help you if you're not producing enough to cover your usage in the first place. But that's a little bit of an aside. So what's the answer here? Education, for sure. But without personalized consultations or the customer taking it on themselves, I don't see how this resolves itself, right? So maybe that's what we do with this podcast, right? We're doing our best to educate ourselves, educate those that are curious about this, the product, and give a good, at least sampling of what a real experience is with the system, what it's capable of, what you can expect from it, and of course to answer all those questions that you've got that I still have, right? In trying to get through the PTO process and using my system and understanding what it's doing and what I can do to make it even better. But that will do it for episode 55 of the Tesla Power Podcast. Please use my referral code. You can save yourself $500 on a solar roof, $300 on solar panels. You would first go to the link ts.la/Aaron62310. That's where you're going to place your order. I'm Aaron Brady, your residential energy community organizer. Let's do this again on the next video.